counting down to the end of the school year, and I am so happy to have this guest on. I've had him on before, and he has outdone himself. He sent me his books. He is a extraordinary STEM author. He sent me all of his books because I went to the post office to check my box, and I had a key for, obviously I had a huge box. I'm like, who sent me something? And he sent me every one of his books. So I am totally and utterly excited because I've thumbed through them and looked through them, and this man is an amazing STEM author. So without any further ado, Douglas, will you please introduce yourself to our guest?
Hello, this is Doug Alford from the Inde Project nonprofit organization.
Now, before, I didn't ask you, what is Inde?
So it comes from independent education. We tried just to make it real short, so it's called Inde.
Okay. All right, because we didn't talk about that before. What does Inde do? Is this your nonprofit, or is this like a group of educators that get together and write or do things?
So it's my nonprofit. There's certainly a group of educators involved in it. We've got 5,000 pages of ebooks and 10 hours of videos that we give away.
Wow. I'm going to tell y'all something. His books, and if y'all are checking me out on Facebook Live at All About STEM Radio, I have brought all of the books that he mailed to me. His books, he's got Science Q Volume 1, Volume 2, intro for different grade levels. If you are teachers, I'm going to tell you, you have to add these books to your library. And hopefully he is selling some of these. And if he is, I know he's not doing it for a lot because he's such a wonderful, wonderful young man. But you have got to get these books for your library. Even if you don't have to teach STEM. You can teach English. You can teach social studies, because all of that is part of what he writes about. He writes about it from a very a phenomenal perspective. So, Douglas, how did you get into STEM writing and becoming a STEM author? What inspired you to do this?
30 years ago, when my kids were in elementary school, they weren't getting science. And so I was working for Boeing at the time, had every other Friday off, and I started volunteering at their school. And just started teaching them science, and that then became, all these years later, the free ebooks that about 1 million get downloaded every year. And we're happy to share that the focus is 3rd to 6th grade teachers right now.
Yes. Yeah. And when I looked at the books, because I look at them from a different perspective. I look from a perspective of being a teacher and how they fit into the standards that we have to teach. And because I'm very, very well versed on next generation science standards, your books fall totally within those standards and those guidelines. So teachers, if you need STEM reading material or reading material for your kids whatsoever, please go to, what is your website for people to get your books from, Douglas?
So it's just getting updated this week.
Okay.
So give me a couple days, but it's www.indeed, INDEED, project,
Okay.
project.org.
Okay. So when you get it updated, send me the link so I can share it on the show's Facebook page with everybody so they'll know how to get there.
Will do.
Okay, because I know when I was in Hawaii, I shared, I've shared your books with teachers there. I've shared them with teachers in Nigeria. and I've shared them with several teachers around the U.S. And the UAE, because they're always looking for reading material. And what I like about this, a lot of kids don't like reading just novels and regular books. A lot of kids are like me. They like reading science stuff. And, you know, I want to ask the question, what got you into making connections? Because your books make connections. One that you sent me, Cat Cousins, it makes the connections between different types of cats, from your house cat up to your tiger. So what got you into making connections in your books?
My day job is a project manager in aerospace.
Okay.
And I work in integration. It is bringing all the pieces together to make a product.
Mm-hmm.
I try to do the same thing with the books. I try to go broader than other authors and tie together practical life.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
My granddaughter wanted a book on cats, and so that's where Cat Cousins came from.
And I love it. It is just too cute. And, you know, I love that it makes the curiosity of a cat looking at a lion, a tiger, and a cheetah, and how they're related. So what did she think about the book when you wrote it, your granddaughter?
She likes it.
All right. Now, you said you've been doing this for 30 years and you volunteered at your children's schools. What are some of the things that you did as a volunteer, and what are some of the things that you felt were needed, which got you to writing the books?
So I gave a presentation on telephones, and of course back then it was landlines.
Yes.
Right. And then we would get the plastic cups and have the kids make the plastics. Then we actually got into the magnets and the electricity behind that make the phones work.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then that was put on the shelf, and then it was updated for cell phones, and then later we updated it for smartphones. So it's been interesting to see how technology has progressed while we're writing the books.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, you're so right. I mean, technology has changed so much, and that's one of the discussions I have with several of my friends that are of a certain age. I mean, we've gone from party lines to landlines to individual landlines to bad phones to the brick cell phone up to what we have now, the smartphones. You know, who would have thought, you know, you could use it as a computer. So I find it all very interesting. Now, one of the things you sent me that I have fallen in love with is you sent me a teacher guide. Tell me, how did that come about? You know, why did you feel you needed to provide a teacher guide for your books?
So in doing some classroom testing with teachers,
Yep.
we wanted to make the material easy for them to use.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got several different groups of teachers, and one group said, I want one book that pulls this all together and has activities.
Mm-hmm.
And the other group said, we want a book just for each subject, like airplanes or cars, computers. And so we had two different groups, and so we tried to make books that fit each one of them. Mm-hmm. There's Science and Light teacher guide that pulls all the subjects in one place the teachers can use. Mm-hmm. And then we have a whole series of 7 books that are by subject.
Okay. All right. So, so I know I'm looking here, and I have Volume 3, which is your 5th and 6th grade science, and you have a Science Q intro, and then you have Volume 1, 2, and 3, and then you have the Science in Lights, Science Q. Tell me about that particular book.
So we call the program PsyQ, for lack of
Yeah.
a better name, and it's Science Quotient. And if you look what a quotient is,
Yeah.
a quotient is the answer you get when you divide something.
Yeah.
And so we use that as an example that when we take any of our everyday objects and you start pulling it apart and breaking it down, science is always there.
Yes.
And so we call the program PsyQ. And we have the different volumes that go with the teacher's guide, or we have it by subject as well.
And that's what I'm holding up. And you've got it grades K through 2, grades 3 through 6. I'm just sitting here going through here, grades 3 through 4. And then you have, what is the tech link? You have a book.
So, in addition to, we call it Science in Light, which is kind of an introduction to the topics, we then wanted to pull on the different subjects through the years. For example, there's the book about Ba to Books, is what it's called, and it traces the links or the connections from when people first learned how to use wool to make cloth.
Yeah.
They had a vertical loom, then they changed it to a horizontal loom, but then people said, okay, well, wool's kind of scratchy, so they learned how to make fibers from plants like linen, and then once they had all the linen clothes and the clothes wore out, they recycled the clothes and they learned how to make paper. Once they had paper, then they did the printing press, and with the printing press, you went and you made the books. And so there's a connection through time from these different products.
And you know what? That is totally interesting. And we don't look at it that way. We look at everything being separate. We don't look at there being things being integral parts of other things or things evolving from other things. So in essence, you're telling me that people have been recycling for years, for hundreds of years.
Yes.
I find that interesting and amazing. Now, you mentioned Inde Ed. What other type of authors or people do you have within that group?
So I've been fortunate that I write the books.
Yes.
But we've got partners around the world that help us. And so I've got a good friend in the Philippines who then takes the books that I write and helps compile the ebooks, but he also makes videos of them as well.
Okay.
So he compiles them. His daughters do the audios, and that's part of the 10 hours of videos that are available out there for free as well.
Okay. All right. So I want to get to your new project, Doug, which is your pandemic book. Tell me how you got into wanting to write this book, because when I had you on April last year, this book wasn't out.
No, it's new.
So tell me a little bit about this book.
I think, especially in 2020, there was a lot of fear.
Yes.
With the pandemic, and I tried to take it from a point of view of a child, an elementary school student, that what would they think and what would they like to know about the pandemic? And so we compared the different pandemics that have happened in history and the causes. And the book focuses on how bacteria has caused some of the diseases, like the Spanish flu, how the coronavirus, COVID-19, is a virus, and a virus is 1,000 times smaller than a bacteria. And then in addition to those pandemics, we have cancers around as well.
Yes.
And so we try to put it all in perspective about how fascinating our bodies are, that we start as one cell that becomes tens of trillions, and that DNA plays a role in that. And we try to tie those three different together and then be positive about the cures that are happening as well.
And I've read through this book, and I'm finding that as I was reading through it, it takes a historical perspective. That's why history teachers can use this, or anybody who's interested in history can utilize this. But it doesn't make it simple or easy, but it makes it understandable. And that's what I like about it. And a lot of these things are some of the information that I teach, that I did teach. And it's making that connection with what's actually happening with your body when you talk about viruses and bacteria and cell division and so on and so forth. As part of this book, was there anything that you found interesting or fascinating, or anything that you learned new about as you were putting this particular book together?
I was just astonished, amazed at the human body and our immune systems, and how you think they're constantly fighting diseases. And a lot of times we don't even think about our immune systems until something goes wrong.
Yep.
But there's a lot that goes right.
Yep. And, that's the thing with the vaccine, is how it works. I think you have a section in here about vaccines. And who did the illustration for you on this particular book?
We were able to find a lot open source. So
Okay.
We're very fortunate. It's a topic that's in a lot of discussion right now, as you're well aware.
Yeah. Okay. So,
We wanted to give it balanced perspective, but also what goes right with the body and how the body fights these diseases, right? And then they hear a lot of terms like antibodies. What is that? And we wanted to explain that in very easy to understand terms.
And what I like about some of your books, as I was going through them, you do give the definitions. You give the term, you give the definition, and you give the page that that information's on, and that is very important for our kids these days, is to know those terms and to understand what they are. So especially in here, you talk about the lymphatic system and the lymph system. You talk about messenger RNA, and to have them to understand that at home as well as understand it from an educational perspective. I think that's very good on your part.
Thank you.
Now, some of your books are black and white, and this particular book is color. What was the rationale for making this one in the beautiful color that you did?
It's a thin book, so it wasn't too expensive to print. and that was a big driver. But the fact that so many elementary schools, especially children, are struggling with the year. And so we wanted to make it color because it helps explain the topic better, I think.
Yes. Well, yeah, it'll definitely catch their attention. It will definitely catch your attention. But I have like 4 questions in my head, and I got to figure out which one I'm gonna let out first. When it comes to this particular book, how has it been received with your audience, or have you noticed how it's been received with your audience?
There have been quite a few downloads for free from Google Play, but I have not gotten a lot of feedback, so I really don't know. We're hoping with the website, when they can download it, that they can leave us comments. We would love to hear feedback.
Okay. All right. So you know what? We're going to ask for that. Ladies and gentlemen in my audience, if you are listening, this is Doug Alford, and he has ebooks that he has on his website. What's your website again, Doug? Or what is it going to be?
www.indeedproject.org.
Okay, www.indeedproject.org. As soon as he gets it finished, he's going to send me the link to it, and I'm going to share it with you. If you download any of his books, please leave a comment so that he can determine how well he's doing, or if you want any more information. And if you're a teacher and want to know how to use his books, you can always email me at All About STEM Radio, because I'm going to tell you, his books go with next generation science standards, because I have gone through them. I have enjoyed them, and if I were still in the classroom, I would definitely be using them. He says it's grades K through 6, but a lot of this stuff, especially this pandemic book, everything in that book I can use in high school biology, everything, to make my students more aware of what is going on. But ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining me, this is Dr. Mary Payton with All About STEM Radio. I come to you here on Fishbowl Radio Network every Monday from 7 to 8 p.m. Central Time here at Globe Life Park here in Arlington. And yes, I am in studio. I'm not in another state. I'm not in another country. I'm here at Fishbowl looking at the stadium right now. And I am interviewing Douglas Alford. He has wonderful, wonderful, wonderful children STEM books that are free. Now, I know you say these are free, Douglas, but do you take any donations, or if anybody wants to help you, because you've been doing this for 30 years and you have how many books do you have, or how many stories do you have? Well over 100.
There's 150 ebooks and videos.
So, please, please, please donate to his cause, because, this is amazing. So.
Thanks for that. So the website that's just coming out, we'll have a place that people are able to donate. That's why we're redoing the website.
Great. And, Douglas, this is information that, like I said, not only science teachers can use, history teachers can use, English teachers can use, social studies teachers can use. And I love how you put those things together, because I know the last time we spoke, we had a conversation of, and this is why we always talk about going from a historical perspective. It was something about the steam engine to the car, or one of those references in your book, one of the books, and I can't remember what it was. Can you refresh my memory?
In Tech Links, it talks about how there's a connection between the glass blowers in the past would have lots of smoke, and so they would drink beer to cut the smoke. And then if you look how beer is made in giant copper kettles. Mm-hmm. And they use that giant copper kettle to make steam for this, first the steam pump and then the steam engine. And then from the steam engine, they made the steam train. And so there's a direct link between the glass mm-hmm. and the beer and the kettles and trains.
Okay. And you know what? You just made another a mental connection for me. We're looking at, as those things were happening, we're also taking into account the Industrial Revolution. So, oh, this is so much information. Now, how do you go about doing your research for your books? Because in some of your books, this is not just normal stuff. You make the connections so well. So how do you go about doing your
Thank
research?
you.
You're welcome.
I've lived overseas in Europe and in Asia for 12 years.
Okay.
And especially in England, there are so many museums, and it's just fantastic to be able to go. Like you mentioned about the connection between a factory, there's a book called Clay to Cars. And the first point is, in English, British English, the word is manufactory. And it's a manufacturing factory where you make things, and then we shorten the word to just factory. But there's a connection between thousands of years ago in China when they made the clay warriors on a production line, and the different steps to ceramics and then how we make cars today, right? And there's a connection there that you can read about in the book.
Okay. I mean, all of this is, and see, from all of these historical perspectives, you know, we never really think about how we started the manufacturing. Everybody goes back to thinking, well, you know, Ford came up with the first manufacturing line, how we put things together. But from what you just said, from the terracotta soldiers in China, they were doing this way back before Ford was. So
Yeah.
So in your research, have you found anything that you find that is extremely interesting?
There's one of the chapters in that book about robots or bots. And hundreds of years ago, they were making mechanical moving toys. Even a lady that could play an old piano called the harpsichord.
Yep.
And they would do it with gears and cams, and that's called automata. And there's a connection between those gears and controlling even the bells, right? You've heard of carry-on bells, where they would use gears and pulleys to control the bells. That mechanical automata and to the artificial intelligence today, there's a direct link between the different steps that was taken then and what we have today.
That is so interesting. And you know what? There's one thing that these books bring out that our children are missing. You know, our children are so automated with being able to use a computer, a tablet, a cell phone, but putting things together like Lincoln Logs or even some of the things they do with robots. Some of our kids don't get that till they're older. And one of the things I love what your books do is it tells the why. It tells the why, it tells the history, and it gives a sequence of events of how things, how they go on or how they happen. Now, I know all your books, well, all of these books are ebooks. How did you get into publishing? Because when you sent me this box of books that I have fallen in love with, how did you get into doing the hard copy?
Amazon makes it pretty easy. Once you have the ebook, turning it into a printed copy is pretty easy.
Okay, so you self-published through what do Amazon call that now? Their self-publishing platform.
It's KDP.
Okay.
Kindle Direct Publishing.
Okay. So I'm glad to see you have done that because seeing them as an ebook was wonderful, but me having the hard copy, I'm one of those people. I love the smell of books. I love the feel of books, and being able to look in them. I'm looking in your Inlights book, and it has the videos. How many videos do you have?
50. We have 50
Oh, that's right.
videos free.
You have 50 videos. And they can be downloaded also, correct?
Yes, they're on YouTube and they're also on Vimeo.
Okay. All right.
And they
So,
will be on the website once it comes out this week.
okay. So what made you think to add videos to your books? Why was that important?
We got some feedback from teachers in Asia that they said, our kids just don't like books as much anymore. They want a video. And you're competing with smartphones and YouTubes. And so it's okay, so we'll make videos.
Okay. All right. So your books, that's right. You have done a lot in Asia. So your books are instrumental in the English language learning of students internationally. Can I say that correctly?
Yeah, so we science is the focus, but a lot of the international students say, hey, you got to teach us English or help us with English first. And so we do have a series in English as well. Mm-hmm. And just a data point on that, if I could, Dr. Payton, and that is our language today has a lot of links in English back to science. If you look at our word for window,
yes,
it actually goes back hundreds of years ago to where houses had a big smoky fire. They didn't have glass for windows, but they would cut wind holes or holes that the wind could blow the smoke out. And so that word from wind hole became our window.
Oh, okay.
If you see the idiom about heard it through the grapevine, which means to get information a lot of times from gossip, that originally was the telegraph wires that looked like grapevines going up and down that were next to the train tracks. And that's how telegraphs were sent. So we still use the idiom even if we have lost the link back to the science.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One last example. In the past, before they could count, especially like in Rome, they would use small rocks called the calculus, which is where the word calculate came from. But they would call those counting boards to do the math. And then the place where they did the counting boards was called a counter. And so we still use that to describe where we do business, like check out the groceries.
Okay. Yeah. I had someone who just said that she had heard about your books, and Kathy, I had worked with her at a elementary school, and she has written me a whole long thing about the Spanish flu and influenza and stuff like that. I don't know. Did she get the book? I'm gonna have to ask Kathy about the pandemic book. If not, she probably has downloaded it or she's looking for it. I found on the CDC website. I just wanted to mention this in case any classification is needed on further broadcast. Okay, so she's talking about the book.
Thank you.
Hey, this lady is smart. I love Kathy. But I'm sorry I cut you off. But, going back, a lot of the things that you have wrote about goes into some of the things that we know, but we're not really sure how they got out there or how they started, just as you was speaking about window. We just thought a window was a window. Now we have some back information about this. I want to go back into putting your books together again. You say you have several people that help you or work with you on this. Is there anyone in specific that you would like to thank or to give homage to, or to kind of talk about what it is that they do?
Ramon Mapa and his family that helped in the Philippines. They're very instrumental in getting these out so we can give them away to people. So I'd like to give him a shout out and tell him thank you so much.
Okay. Now, when you say you give them away to people, who are some of the people or some of the countries that you have provided your books to?
So every year, about 1 million free ebooks are downloaded of our ebooks from Google Play. Mm-hmm. They just tell you the country, and there's in 60 different countries around the world.
Wow.
That have downloaded. About 20,000 people have left positive comments on Google Play. Mm-hmm. So we do get some feedback from the users about what they like and what we can do to improve.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Primarily, right now, what are some of the countries that download you on a regular basis?
India is very popular. We translated many of the books into Hindi, and they're all free on Google Play. And so that's quite a few of the downloads to India. And then Southeast Asian nations like Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, they've been downloading a lot of our books as well.
Okay. And you know what? That's good to know, because I have a lot of listeners that are from India, and this station has a lot of listeners that are from all over the world. So I want them to know that they can get your books, and they can get them for free. And I don't know about ordering them through Amazon, but I'm trying to get you out there as much as I possibly can. But
thank you, Dr. Payton. Appreciate that.
Well, hey, you came on the show when I asked you to come on the first time, and I thought it was amazing because I was still in Hawaii at the time. And this time, when you had your new pandemic book, which I love, come out, and your Cat Cousins book, which also I love, come out, and you actually sent me the books, because I'm one of those people. Books feel good. Having a book in your hand and looking at the pages feels good, but everybody does not have the ability to get the actual book in hand. But to be able to look at the book and read the book, I have to totally thank you for coming on and doing this again for me, or reaching out to me. But
thank you.
You're welcome. But Doug, we've got about 10 minutes left. This always goes very, very quickly. I know, as you said, you have a lot of people who download these every year. I want you to take the time right now to let the audience know, who you are, any information specifically that you want to give to them about the books, and namely, one big thing, teachers. How would they use the books in their classes? And I think I just asked you 4 questions all at one time. So
I'll do my best. So I'm Doug Alford. People ask, why have you written all these books? And I write the books to help people understand science that is practical in the world. The focus is on everyday objects, right? People see airplanes and they look so complicated, but you say, no, there's only 4 forces. That's it. And so then you talk about those. They look at computers and they look so confusing. But when you look at them and you talk about electricity and the light and the magnetism and electricity, those together, it's not so scary anymore. It becomes easy to understand when you can pull the different objects around that we see. Many of the free downloads go to people that have smartphones. Mm-hmm. And we want to help those people understand smartphones and understand how amazing all this technology is that we're holding in our hands. One of the books is Smartphone 7 Ways, and we just talk about sound to electricity to light and the different waves that are involved with that. then we take a different approach and we say all these different smartphones were once all different objects. The cameras, the phones, right, the music, those all used to be different. And I think the elementary kids and even young adults find that fascinating because they didn't know that. They weren't alive when that was part of it. And so our job is to help make science exciting.
And, and to watch it grow, because you just mentioned something when you talk about the smartphone. The phone has gone from being just a means of communication to a camera, to a recorder, to a GPS, to a web browser, and to messaging. And all of that in one little device is amazing, because you're right. My nieces who are 11 and under, they don't know life without a cell phone. They don't know life without a microwave. So, but they don't get to go to the zoo often, especially now because of the pandemic. So you have books about food webs and food chains and cat cousins and things like that. And, that really brings things more into perspective. So, but I'm talking a lot, and this is your interview.
That's okay. One of the books on food is called Air, Water, Food.
Yes.
Breathe, Drink, and Eat. And it's set in a school where the teacher has them not eat one day and not drink water and then come to school hungry and thirsty. And it's kind of an analogy or a comparison that says we need to be that way with knowledge, right? Science is so fascinating, and it's so easy to say, well, I can't understand that. It's too complicated. But our books want to make it that it's easy to understand. And once you understand one part, you can go to the next. Another key part of the books, though, isn't just knowledge. We want to talk about just basic human values, not preaching, not religious at all.
Yes.
But it's like we want people to use the free science to help improve the world, improve themselves, and then improve ourselves, and then our society.
Yes. And, a lot of things have already been developed, designed, and created. And one of the things you said earlier is what we're doing now is putting those things together to make life more simpler, more easier than it used to be. And hopefully our kids will use that knowledge and say, hey, if I've got this, this, and this, I should be able to create this, or this, instead of, okay, I can go and buy this, and I can go buy this computer game, and that's it. I want, from your books, I see our kids becoming creators based on the knowledge that they're gaining. What do you think about that?
That's our hope, ma'am. You nailed it. That's exactly what we're trying to do. We have a book called Plants Give.
Yeah.
And it talks how plants freely make food that they can't eat, make fragrances that they can't smell. They share. And if they share, we can share too.
Yes. And you're so right. And I don't know if it's that same book or that same book group. A lot of our kids don't know where their food comes from. And as we have been in this pandemic, and a teacher told me when I was in Hawaii, he said, if y'all don't put in a garden this year, you may come up short. And with so many food deserts that we have in our big cities, especially our inner cities, you can take some beans, you can grow tomatoes, you can grow peas, you can even grow a little bit of corn if you want to, cabbage, whatever. that's something that our kids need to go back and think about and learn about. What do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea and a great object lesson. So many of our books try to tie science into hands-on,
Yes.
into experiments that teachers can do, and experiences that kids can have.
Yep. And that's got to be a thing. And they've, hopefully, and one of the things I've always tried to do is when you leave my class, you have several things that you can do at home to make your life better or easier. We grew gardens at school. We raised tilapia. We raised fish. We created small robots. We did a lot of things that they can take home. And from your books, it makes them think, okay, what can I do next? And it was one of your books, and I'm going to say this because we've got 2 minutes left. It's one of your books, and I can't remember which one it was. It had recipes in there for chocolate chip cookies. Do you know how many kids don't cook? Have never seen a recipe for chocolate chip cookies?
That's on one of the car books, and we tried to give examples of processes that make products.
Yes.
And we wanted to make it fun, and so we talk about the chocolate chip cookies and the processes that are used to make that. And then we look at clothing and how you go from fibers to fabrics. And then once you've done that, we look at cars, and we show how to make the pieces and then how to put them all together.
Yep. So, Douglas, hey, I have to give you all kind of kudos for these books. We've got 30 seconds left. Can you believe this? We get in these conversations and our time goes just entirely too fast. But if y'all are out there, this is Douglas Alford, and you can get his books. Can you give us the website again that's coming up?
www.indeed, INDEED, project, indeedproject.org.
Okay, and hey, if you don't do anything but get the pandemic book, I'm quite sure you're going to get more than just this pandemic book. It's written well. It's written understandable for all ages, not just for children. And I want to thank you, Douglas, for coming on. And my guest next week, because I forgot my outline today, is a wonderful young lady from the Irving YMCA. And I've done some work with her with drones. And so I'm excited about that. But I'm excited about, Douglas, you getting out there. And thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Dr. Payton. Really appreciate it.
All right. Audience, I'll see y'all next week here on All About STEM Radio on Fishbowl Radio Network at Globe Life Park from 7 to 8 p.m. And good night and goodbye.